You don't imagine how grateful everybody would be if you remember that for you to exist, trillions and trillions and trillions of subatomic particles have to be in agreement. You are a divine intention.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the channel Within. I'm Mira, and today I'm delighted to have with me Dr. Honkala, who will be speaking to us about her spiritual transformative experiences. She is a marine biologist and a former NASA oceanographer, author, and speaker. Welcome, Dr. Honkala, and thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you so much, Mira, for having me. It's a great honor. I love to be here with you and with your audience. This is good.
Awesome. Um, do you want to get started with the first ND that you had very young, or wherever you feel like you want to start with? It's just take it away.
Yeah, let's go directly to the point. I would just say that this was I would just say the experience that opened the door for everything to change incredibly. I was only a little child, close to 3 years old, when the door to start remembering who I am started to open. It actually came open just like that. And after that, it was to try to make sense. It's taken me the rest of my life to peel the layers and understand and all the clarities and get to the root of all this. But yeah, everything started with a near-death experience, an accident caused by an accident I had when I was just a little child. I was born in Bogotá, Colombia. I lived there with my parents, my sisters, and my parents would leave us at the care of a maid. And when my parents were not around, she didn't really pay attention to what we were doing. And one day, early in the morning, as usual, my parents left. My oldest sister, she was close to 4. I was close to 3. Just two little ones decided, let's go play in the patio. And this was a place where there was a deep tank, and we had been told not to play there because we didn't know how to swim and it was dangerous. But of course, when you are a child and they tell you not to do something, that's exactly what you want to do. And knowing that this lady didn't pay any attention, we decided to grab a ball and play cash across the tank. We climbed the walls of this tank, and my sister sat in the one side of the tank, had like a surface that would be used for scrubbing clothes when was needed, and the other side was just a thin edge. So she was a little bit more like safer in that area. I was really leaning precariously in that tank, but that was even more fun. So my sister threw the ball. She didn't apply enough force. The ball fell and it was floating on the surface of the water. And I just thought I can grab it. And I leaned forward. And when I touched the ball, I lost it, it rolled and I lost my balance and fell in the tank. The first feeling, just from right there, the experience was horrifying because the first feeling was that this water was frigid cold. People think that because I'm from Colombia, I am from hot weather country, but Bogota is high up in the Andes. So very early in the morning, the temperature in this water was probably 30, 40 degrees Fahrenheit, which would be probably 4 degrees, 3 degrees Celsius. I don't know, but it was cold. So that feeling was like just right there. My breath went away just with that frigid water. And then after that, it came the realization why I cannot breathe. I had never been in a pool. We didn't have a bathtub, so I never had my head under the water. So I did not have idea that if you fall in the water, you drown. So imagine the horror when you realize you cannot breathe and you want to escape. I was trying to get out of this ordeal. I was desperate, desperate. And it came what I only can describe as a miracle because suddenly I went from that horrendous terror to complete peace. Absolute calmness, peace, serenity, just like, oh, I didn't even know what happened. I just knew that one moment I was desperate, horrified, and complete terror, and the other second I was without the need to having to breathe, having to go anywhere, having to escape, having to do anything. And then it was just feeling absolutely great. And people ask me, Mira, people ask me, and I like to kind of answer some of the questions people ask me as we go. They say, how can you remember you were so little, just a little child? First, I have to say, how can I actually forget? Drowning is horrifying, horrifying, just right there. That's something somebody would never forget. After that, I have to say this experience is nothing but contrast, 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 contrast. So imagine going from that horror to that peace. How can you forget that? After that, next contrast. When I was drowning, the horror I was feeling, imagine when you're in that panic state, your heart is beating like almost coming out of my chest. And I could feel it like a drum in my head. And the moment that I enter into peace, silence, complete silence. And I remember hearing it like a drum. And it was not all. The thing about the silence, I live in a very noisy house. I had two sisters, dogs, birds, cousins. It was a lot of noise. Colombia is like music, noisy. Now it was like a silence that was so profound that I call it the silence behind the silence. It was the silence that comes with this state of absolute peace. And that silence, Mira, was so good that even after the experience, I craved that silence. I wanted it back. And I would hide in closets, under the bed, under the sheets. Later, I would go to chapels. It don't matter. I wanted that silence back. And it took me years to realize that that was not an outer silence. That to get there, I had to go back in. At that moment, didn't know that. Going back to the experience, besides that silence, the other contrast was that this tank was completely dark. It was a space that was made of cement. There was a roof, and it was very early in the morning. So the space in itself was very dark. And the last thing that I saw with my eyes open was the darkness of the space. I entered into complete darkness. And the moment that calm, serenity, peace, silence happened, light. And it was a light that came from below. And it was a light that was able to illuminate the whole watery surrounding. And then the feeling was, now there is light. So imagine that now that, oh, what is one thing that also makes us feel comfortable, good? There's light. And then on top of having all these, suddenly I started to see bubbles. And the bubbles were surrounded by light. And imagine with that childlike, like playing moment of spirit, I'm like, oh, these bubbles. And I started to chase the bubbles. And when I turn around chasing these bubbles is when I saw my body. And this is so amazing because when I saw the body, it was the clear realization, the knowing that is my body. And there was not shock or nervousness or fear. It was like, oh, yeah, that's normal. That's my body. So it was like a familiar experience. The only thing I have to say that shocked me about the body and that I still remember with that feeling of being shocked was looking at the eyes. The eyes were wide open, looking at nothing. Like mirror, you know how we say that the eyes are the mirror of the soul? The eyes were empty. Like it's when I just kind of imagine realizing that the body, that was just a shell. There was nothing there. And that really shocked me. And it came the other contrast. I was born as a very sick child. And I spent almost 3 years feeling completely unwell. I didn't even know I was born with respiratory problems, so I didn't even know what was to feel well. And now I was in the state of complete and absolute well-being. So what do you think will happen the moment I see the body, I see that empty shell, I'm like, I'm not going back there. And I made the conscious decision, like I'm not going back into that body. And I turned around and left the body behind. See, and people also think I get that, but what about your mom? What about your, you're just not even having any moment of, at that moment, I wasn't thinking about any of that. It's just right what is happening, right how I am feeling, right that, oh, I'm so well, I don't want to go back there. And then I turned around and I started to see flowers. And these flowers were blooming from nowhere. And then I was picked by the flowers. It was the sense of even thinking how big these flowers had to be, even the dimension. Because now I'm being picked. And this is, I'm going to answer another question people ask me a lot. They said, like, how could you turn around if you were not in a body? Who's turning around? Who are you? And I said, at that moment, I did not have any thought about that. The only thing I can say is that what happened is that the consciousness becomes so identified with the body. Imagine living it, and the longer we stay in the body, the more identified we become, that we still think that we are that whatever is that we think we are. And at that moment, I'm not thinking I'm this, I'm that. I'm just having the most amazing, wonderful experience. But I'm going to come to that, how I start realizing who I really was. So at this moment, I am now being carried by these flowers, and I'm like, whoa, this feels so incredibly good. When in just a blink like that, I appear in the maid's room where she was listening the radio. And Mira, this experience is so real. And I even mean real in the sense that years later we were able to validate that. I remember even the name of the soap opera she was listening in the radio. And I'm telling,
Ingrid, um,
yes,
were the flowers with you at this time when you were okay?
no, the moment I enter into the maid's room, it's like I switch. I'm glad you asked that. Yes, like a shift realities. And now I am not there anymore. I'm floating in her room and I'm looking at her like from above. And I'm like, whoa, like, what am I doing here? And I just say, oh, that's Maria. So it was just like, boom. And then again, it's like having this incredible memory and clarity of what was happening. And then since nothing happened with Maria, in another flash mirror, just like that again. Now it's like shifting realities like that. I appear floating above my mom. And my mom was walking and she was close to her bus stop. She left early that morning and and it was about 10 minutes walk for her to get to her bus stop. And then I always like to give a little bit of background here because my mom had got a new job. So imagine, Mira, how does it feel? You're going to your new job. You have the expectation, the nervousness, the anticipation. She's ready for this new job. And the moment I am floating above her, I said, "Oh, that's mom." She stopped. She did not hesitate. She didn't, not even that job that was the most important thing. She, the intuition, the strength of this call was such that she turned around. She knew something is happening at home with one of my daughters. And she started to run back home. So I have to say, my mom had a great intuition, but also that she listened to her intuition. And then she started to run back home. And I have to say, this part of the experience is crucial because it, one, validates the experience, because now is somebody else is involved in the whole experience. And two, I think it blows everybody's away because it's knowing that that moment of connection happened. And then my mom now is running, and I'm looking at her like wondering why mom is running. And I'm feeling so incredibly well. I'm not thinking, I'm doing good, mom. And then at that moment, I see a dog at the end of the street. And then I get distracted with the dog and forget all about my mom. So this is funny how consciousness works. It's like where the attention goes, like people say, the energy flows, is just like that. The moment I pay attention to the dog, I am with the dog. I'm like, whoa. Then I saw a park, and the moment I felt the desire to be in the park, I am in the park. So I'm like, whoa, this is so much fun. And I started to play a game of going places. So all we know about time and experience, time and space, I experience in a completely different way. And when I'm playing this game, in another blink, it's just things will happen like this. It will shift. I appear in a realm that was made of intense, pure, shiny, bright light. And this is the first time, Mira, that I felt I am home. I am home. And what is home? Home is the sense of familiarity, knowing, feeling that you belong, feeling embraced, feeling recognized, feeling that you belong. Is like, I am home. Carol. So,
So in that game that you're playing and you got there, what were you wishing for or what were you thinking about?
oh, it would just be things like that, like being in the park, or it was just very fleeting things, like whatever it would be there in my head. I will look at something and I will be there, or I would
Yeah.
feel
So
like,
I'm just wondering what thought made that connection to the
oh,
shiny sparkly place.
I don't know. Yes, I don't know. No, it just
It
happened.
happened. Okay.
Yeah, oh, I'm glad you asked that. Nobody ever did. No, I don't know, Mira. It just happened. But
Yeah.
maybe now that you ask, I can actually go look
Think
into that. Like what trigger or what brought me to go to the light. You never know. Maybe I saw light and then the call of going to the light happened. I don't know. Oh, that's good. Now you brought me to go into something else, but it just happened. Yeah. And when I am now in this state mirrors when, for the first time, I have the clarity, the realization, like, although I had seen my body in the water, up to this point, I did not have that clarity, that realization that of who I was or anything. See, like I'm not thinking any of that. I'm just living the moment. I'm just having fun. I'm just living the experience. And it's when I realized, whoa, I am not that body. I am not that persona. I am not that. And it's when I realized myself as a being of light. And I was still having a sense of self, the sense of I am something. And then, but that sense of self changed. It wasn't a sense of self of looking just this direction, but a sense of self that started to expand, the sense of self of I'm connected with everything. It wasn't not just an inward thing, it was like an outward thing. It was like I'm connected with everything. And but even this sense of self, Mira, vanished. And I went beyond to experience something which is the most difficult part to explain of all, which it's taken me a lifetime to find a way to use some words, analogies, ways to explain this, but because it's hard, I call it nothingness. Some people call it non-self, emptiness, the vacuum, some different things. I call it nothing. But when I say nothing, people get afraid. Like, what do you mean nothing? But I can give an analogy to make people feel more clear about what this nothingness means. So I say, imagine there is a huge stadium. And in the middle of the stadium, there is a little tiny box. And all I thought I was that box, or was in that box. And suddenly that box opens. And I realized, whoa, nothing, because it's nothing I thought I was. But at the same time, wholeness, totality, complete connection. But at the same time, nothing, because it's the sense of nothing to describe, nothing to understand, nothing to. It was like the absence of descriptive things, conditioning things, imposed things. It's like almost at the same time, no color, no movement. It's like almost to arrive to the source of everything, like pure potential. I think the only words I can use to describe an experience like this is pure presence and just absolute consciousness. Like, expansion and contraction is all of it at the same time. And if I could use any kind of, even though it's almost using the word emotion doesn't even fit there, but if I could use something close to using the word emotion, is complete bliss. Bliss. And then when I am in that state of consciousness, my mom finally arrived home. And this is the other amazing thing, Mira. My mom knew exactly where to go.
Wow.
We live in a big house, and if she get distracted in any other room or what, I mean, the body cannot survive. I mean, there's a limit to things, but she went directly to the patio. And my oldest sister was there, and she didn't go to the maid because we were told not to play there. So she didn't want to be in trouble, and she's trying to help me get out of the tank. So the moment that she sees my mom, she's like, Mom, Ingrid is there and I cannot get her. My mom jumped in the tank and she got me out, and I was like a raggedy doll. no pulse, no breathing, completely pale, blue lips, blue nails, and I was done. And my mom, this is like the part of the synchronicities, the way how life is playing it. So I am here because of this. My mom worked with children and she took some training. She was whatever she learned at the time to do CPR for children. What are the odds of that? And then my mom knew what to do. So my mom started to do whatever she knew to revive me. I did not feel anything, Mira. Nothing at all. I was completely disconnected from this reality. Then is when I felt that I had jumped from the tallest building in the world. Why do I say this? Because I experienced a sense of vacuum. Like if you jump from ground zero, and I was like if I was lost. I don't know how to explain this. And I started to feel like I was being vacuumed, like I was being pulled back, and there was nothing I could do. And I resisted. I was like, no. And then I knew I was back in the body when the feeling of, imagine the analogy, going back from the whole stadium to the little box. And I just felt compressed. I felt the sickness because, again, I was sick all my life up to that point, and the sense of coldness, the sense of pain, the sense of anger, the sense of everything. It was like, I don't want to be here. And then people ask, like, how could you be so ungrateful? Your mom saved you. And I'm like, I wasn't thinking that way. Imagine that you are a child and you are taken to an amusement park and you're having the fun of your life. You're in Disney, and now they're telling you we have to go home after you've been there only for like an hour or something. I'm like, no, I don't want to go. I did not want to be here, Mira. And I just became very angry. And from there, things just became very difficult because I refused to be here. And I not just refused to be here, but I came back with a consciousness I didn't have before. And when I will look at myself, like I will look at myself in the mirror, I will cry. I will cry. I will pull my hair, scratch my face. I will go to my mom and say, you don't understand. I am not this child. I am not a child. And I never felt like a child again. Said, this is not me. This is not my name. And I should not be here. And then my mom didn't even know what to say. Of course, like, what? Oh, you're a pretty girl. She didn't know what was happening. And then the other thing, I experienced, like I said to you, a state of connection, oneness, unity. So I started to see my parents not as my parents. I didn't have that attachment. I was seeing them as my equal. So
That,
so
that's
I
so yeah, that is so remarkable, Dr. Honkala, because it seems as if, you know, even though you experienced this so young at almost three, let's say two, your higher self had to have stepped in there and where you were able to realize you are not the body or the mind, and also like realize we were all method acting here, and when we're over, our true essence is that of source, so that's such a beautiful message.
Yes, yes, yes. And you know what was incredible, Mira, was that I started to refuse conditioning.
Yeah.
So I became rebellious because I would look at my parents and say, why do I have to listen to these people? They don't know anything. And I would look at other children and be like, what is happening to these people? Oh, they don't know anything. It was so shocking, Mira, because it's the realization that we come here to this school of earth with a complete blank, like, go and learn. And I'm like, of course, I felt like a fish outside of the water. What is with all these people here? What is happening to them? And to make matters even, or to bring more of the validation that something really happened to Ingrid during this experience, is that you just name it. I'm just 2 years old. I'm about to be three. After I came back, my mom was a teacher. She worked, she was also a psychologist. She worked with children with learning disabilities. This is also amazing how everything was, the pieces were so incredibly put together, because I started to show remarkable abilities. So I started to be able to read, write, um, resolve mathematical problems, put together complex puzzles, paint. Because what happened is that, of course, when you are with the brain and when you are a child in the sense of a human, or your human experience, your ability, your abstract, your capacity to work with abstracts, it doesn't develop until you're like 5 or 7. The moment I remember who I was and get access to the consciousness of that, I was like, now I came back with that. And I started to show that pretty quick. And even later, when I went to school, my learning abilities were like impressive. And it was like, to me, was, I'm not learning anything, I'm just remembering. I'm just remembering. But Mira, imagine how hard it was for a child like me, not having yet the language to express what was happening. But even that, I had words and language that was not normal for a child of my age. It was like, my mom said, listening to me was almost pretty scary. Like, whoa, what is with this child? But again, it was very hard, as remarkable as it sounds, and with all the gifts and all the incredible abilities and everything, it became also a burden, because nobody
Absolutely.
around me understood. I didn't fit anywhere at a school. I was like an oddity, like, what is with this person? And even at a school, teachers will put me aside in a corner because they didn't know what to do with me. So it became very, very difficult. I didn't feel the sense of belonging. I didn't feel attached. I didn't feel that I had any attachment to my persona or my name or anything that I was. And the only thing that brought peace, the only thing that helped was what happened after I started to have what we know today. The language we describe is out of body experiences, or which to me is just, I know that we are multidimensional beings. So it's just changes in the state of consciousness, accessing different level of consciousness, because at the end of the day, I experience wholeness. So I know that we can be anywhere, anytime, be anything, anytime. So it's just, but to be able to describe it in a way, I started to just have access to that space of consciousness where home is, where the light is. And then in this space of consciousness, in one of these journeys, I started to see lights. And these
So
lights
was
were
that
shining.
voluntary for you, Dr. Honkala, for you to have the out of body experiences? How did that evolve?
It was very involuntary, and I'm glad you asked, because these are details that not everybody asks. But it was pretty shocking at the beginning. Actually, even very scary for the nervous system. I was experiencing a lot of anxiety, and every time I would go into that, it was like a spiral. Like, I would experience movements I have never experienced here, very fast, very slow, or sounds. It's funny because it's difficult. How you explain a sound you have never heard here, or a color you've never seen here, or a velocity, a frequency, speed, vibration you've never experienced here. But I was experiencing all that. So it would be very shocking for my body, very shocking for my mind, my nervous system. And I would just be like, almost like having the worst nightmare. But then it would bring me to that realm of the light. And because it would bring me there, I would let it happen just because I wanted to be there. So at the beginning was very disturbing, especially the sounds were very scary, but I will get there. I will get there. So I'm like, okay, until it became, okay, this is just the journey to get there. And then I would sleep a lot. It happened in my sleep at the beginning too. No, this was really like, would you say, voluntary? This all happened. And I guess it was my inner going back to it, like, and abandoning this 3D reality and switching. So I would just happen when I would go asleep. So I guess when I enter that peaceful state, it would catapult me there. And then in one of these experiences, in one of these journeys, is when one day I was completely surrounded by starlight figures. And they were shining in all different colors, and they were as far as the universe. And then in another one, of course, every time these things happen, Mira, I wanted to sleep more and more and more. And in one of these journeys, I encountered a starlight figure that was shining in gold. And it approached me, and it shifted in human form. And it touched me in the head. And it's when I said, you are a being of light. So I was able to, oh, I get it. We are the same thing. And then it's when I woke up in that experience, in that moment. I don't want to forget something that later in life, I saw a movie called Cocoon, when some extraterrestrial beings will rip the skin off, and inside they had light. They were made of light. And I remember watching that movie. I was just a child, and turning to my sisters and said, that's what we are. That's what we are. So it's like that recognition, we are light. And then at the beginning, when I started to see them, imagine mirror, I wanted to sleep all the time. And because I was a little child, and if you're sleeping and you're not bothering anybody, you let the child sleep. But then things needed to get balanced. And the way to get to that balance is one day I'm taking a shower. And then is when a blue light shone in the bathroom. And I'm like, oh, now the beings of light are here. And I started to see them here. And then at that moment is when I started to feel the sense of like, I want to play with my sisters. I want to be here. I started to feel the sense of, because I was seeing them here, and they brought me peace and the sense of belonging, that it was okay to be here. So up to that point, I was very rebellious. I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to be here. I didn't want to play with anybody. There was a moment, I reached the moment where I didn't even want to be touched. And then this experience at this moment was later, I came to understand that as it was the first glimpses of realizing that I didn't have to go somewhere to feel at home. When the beings of light were here, I started to feel, oh, home. I can be here and be home. So it's later is the realization, and I will talk more about that home is not a place, but a state of being. So I now I'm feeling better. I want to play with my sisters. But I'm still feeling a sense of rejecting who I am. Like, so when these beings were around, I could smell. Oh my God, Mayor, I could smell flowers, like the most delicious sense of like flowers. And I could like feel their presence, see their light. But I never at the beginning was least hearing anything. And the first time I started to hear was when I was 4 years old and I threw a big tantrum. 4 or 5, I threw a big tantrum because they were calling my name. I think I was 5 by then. And then Ingrid, come to eat, Ingrid, come to eat, and I wouldn't go. Every time they called my name, Mira, I felt the sense of like, don't call me like that. That is not my name. And then that evening, especially, I just wasn't listening. And then the lady, we had a new maid, of course, and she came and she's like, we're calling you for dinner, Ingrid. Why are you not coming? And I said, don't call me like that. That is not my name. And it's when she said, how should we call you? What is your name? And for the first time, I'm able to say it. I turn to her and say, I do not need one.
Wow.
Like, leave me alone. I don't need a name. And then, of course, they send me to bed like, this girl, this is impossible.
Too much.
Too much. Like, oh. Then I was crying. I was upset. And then when I am in bed is when for the first time I hear voice. And it was this compassionate, loving, just amazing voice. It's like in a whisper, like in my ear, like it's going to take time for them to understand that names are not needed in the realm of the light, as you already know. And this is the moment, Mira, where I felt like, oh, I'm not crazy. Now I know why I don't need a name. It's good. But of course, later I understood names are needed in our human experience. They carry frequency, this and that is all that involve having a name. Of course, we need one, but not there. And they said to me a few things. They said that many more experiences were going to happen. But these were experiences that someday I would share with others. But this was not the time. And they showed me the distant future when that would happen. And but they said that it was not the time, so it was better not to talk to anybody because they were not going to understand. And for me, it was like, what is not to understand? What is happening to these people? So it was so hard. And then they said that people were going to be put in my path to help me and to guide me. And they were very right. First, of course, I thought they were like crazy and I wanted to share these things, and everybody would look at me like, this girl has a big fantasy. She's dreaming, she's creating things. Pretty quick, I realized they don't believe anything I said. And second, my mom, my grandmother, and other people, yeah, they were put in my path, just as they say. And the first in recognizing and validating me was my mom, which was like so important. If it wasn't for that validation, Mira, I don't think I would be here, because a child feeling that is completely isolated in an experience like that is very hard to live live a life like that. And then I went to school, and now they told me not to say anything, but they didn't say not to paint. So I always like to make that little joke, because now I'm painting beams of light everywhere.
Oh, wow.
I had to express it. I had to just imagine, just experiencing this is my world that I'm living. That's Look at children, they paint the world they live in, and I'm painting beams of light everywhere. And then it's when the teacher come and said, whoa. She was curious because I paint them everywhere, every book, every page. And she's like, is this the sun, the stars? I'm like, no, my friends, the beings of light. Oh, they already thought that I was weird, crazy, strange girl. Now she's having imaginary friends. Let's call the parents. My dad happened to travel a lot, so he was not really involved much in what was happening. My mom was the one always there. She came to the school, and she's like, the teacher started to show all the drawings, but it's also when we discover something else. And Of course, at the moment, I didn't understand what was happening, but my mom discovered that I could see auras too, because all my paintings had auras. I was living in a complete different reality. And then when they're describing and looking at the pictures, I just said to my mom, Mom, these are the colors that we wear, and these are my friends, the beings of light. And my mom was like, like she looked at me with these mom eyes, like nothing is happening. And she told the teacher, this is just a phase, we will fix it. And she quick finished the whole thing and took me home. And I imagine I felt like nobody believed me, nobody. I'm alone in this world. And it's when on our way home, my mom confessed to me that she also could see things that others could not see. So this was the moment of like, oh. So like when I know that I was born in the bloodline meant to be born, because otherwise my mom, well, who knows, they would have thought that this girl is crazy, she needs some medication. But no, my mom now said to me that she could see spirits since she was a little girl, but she said I had learned to be quiet because nobody understands. And I said, of course, I asked her why people are afraid and why we cannot talk about this. But she validated the beings of light. She said, people are afraid of the unknown. So you cannot share this with anybody. But I'm here. And then, this thing that people call spirits. When I was 6 years old, I started to see spirits too. And I know the difference because it was different, Mira. It was very different. When I had the first encounter with a spirit, I was in shock. It was very scary. It was something different. And it's when I ran to my mom and I said, Mom, the spirits and the beings of light are not the same. And then,
So, as a 6-year-old, you were able to identify spirits being maybe earthbound and not being able to cross over, whereas the beings of light are from the beyond the veil.
yes, yes, you just said it clearly because I didn't know. I didn't, at the beginning, I didn't know the difference. They just scared me like crazy. And I'm like, whoa. So I told my mom, Mom, the beings of light and the spirits are not the same. And because I was already 6, I had the language to explain things more clearly. My mom asked me to explain. She thought we were seeing the same thing. And then she started to cry. She said, I think that you can see angels. Then, because we grew up as Catholics, that's the only explanation. And I said, Mom, but I don't think they're angels because they don't have wings. So I was completely seeing things without the conditioning of the human mind, just as they are. And then I went to the beings of light and I asked. First, I love the clarity that you brought, because I asked about the spirits and I call them dark spirits because they cause me fear. And now it comes that clarity. It was nothing of being bad or good or dark or nothing. It's just vibration, because they were earthbound. They vibrated. Their vibration was lower, and that was the discrepancy. That was just I was vibrating in a different frequency to be connected with the beings of light. So it was just this shift in frequency, and that's what caused the fear. But I asked them and I thought they were going to say, oh, those spirits are this there or whatever, be careful. I don't know what I thought. And it's when they said that you call spirits, you, us, in essence, we're all the same.
Oh, that is so beautiful.
It is. They said the difference is the level of awareness that you have about who you truly are.
So, Ingrid, just curious why they're here, the spirits. Did you get any kind of clarification from them? Are they stuck?
Yes, and that's exactly, I come back to the beginning when people ask me, how can you turn around? Because when you completely identify with the form, you're still thinking you are the form. You're still feeling we are the form. And the more you identify with what we call the 3D, with what we call the physical reality, then the more you feel you still, there's some beings don't even realize they have transcended because they are completely identified. So they are still wanting to do the same things. They are stuck. They completely forgot who they truly are. And they say you can help them. So us, by being conscious, by shining the light of consciousness in them, by guiding them to the light, which means guiding them to remember, they can let go. But until then, they're trapped. So that's how we see them. And they vibrate lower, not because they're bad or good again, is because when your focus of attention is in the matter, you vibrate like that. When your attention is in the light, you vibrate like that. It's all vibration. This is the other thing. There's a law, it's called the law of resonance. It's like you put one guitar next to the other, the string that you play vibrating the other one. So the more focus of attention you have in the material world, the more you attract the same reality. We create our reality. So whatever we see is what we project. See, so the more, and that was a teaching I just got recently, actually, how it's completely up to us. The only way to get out of the wheel of samsara is your focus of attention. Where your focus of attention is, where your focus of attention goes, the energy flows. If it's in the physical reality, is even if the attachment is jealousy, even if it's anger, even if it's desire, temptation, that's where you go. But if you are in the connection with the light, with the love, with the values of the universe, with the totality, that's where you go. So that's why we have to practice so many things as forgiveness, detachment, clarity, knowledge, union, all that you can experience here that bring you to change your vibration and connect where you really want to go. So that and that was amazing. The other thing, Mira, when I asked them, my mom said that you are angels. I said, that's what you are. Listen to the answer. They didn't say we are this, we are that. Again, they said we are what you want us to be.
Wow.
Exactly. So consciousness manifests to us in the way that is going to guide us to our growth and evolution. What is it that you need? What is it that you're calling? What is it you're vibrating with? That's what you're going to call. So that this is incredible. And you know the other person, now this is very important, mention to you that the other person that came to my life to actually guide my path to where it had to go to be where I am today was my grandmother. Because let me tell you, I got the validation from my mom, all that, but without the knowledge, without the clarity, that's why studying is so important. Without the knowledge and the clarity my grandmother brought to me, everything would have been just experience. Another experience, like eating, like bathing, even if they are transcendent, or you can call it mystical, whatever, experience is experience. But if you don't know the profound meaning, if you don't know, if you don't carry wisdom, understanding, and you go deeper, it's just to stay in the surface. So my grandmother was the one that brought spirituality into my life. And she was raised as Catholic, but she was a very rebellious woman. And she was like, I want to know more. There has to be more. And then she started to explore. She joined a group called the Rosicrucian Order. Then after that, she started to study Hinduism and Buddhism and Kabbalah and the chakras and everything she could find in her path. And then she brought those teachings to our house. And because of her, by the age of 9, I was reading the Bhagavad Gita. I was reading books of self-realization, the books of discernment. I was, oh my, well, other kids were like playing and wanting to, I don't know, do other things. I wanted to be enlightened. So my grandmother was the one that brought the depthness into my life. Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah, but of course, Mira, this made me even be more different than anybody else. While
Yes.
everybody's trying to live the normal life, I'm sitting with my grandma in groups of people where I was the youngest person always, and I was like, but I was understanding everything they were saying. So that brought me also to know that and to have the clarity that my journey, of course, I know now we are eternal beings. My spiritual awakening began way before I came into this realm, and I just had to remember quick. So I also know there's a pre-plan. I started to have visions of the future when I was 4, access to past life experiences when I was 16. Everything spontaneous. Nothing was like, oh, there's guiding that didn't even exist. The guiding stuff, past regression, it just all happened. I just started to access all these and realize, oh yeah, I came here to remember. We have all our purpose and our missions, and I came here to remember quick, and that's why it's been not just one near death, but few and many more experiences.
Yeah, I was now going to say definitely it seems as if your plan before life, was the plan to remember quick, so that way you can assist in helping humanity to evolve, Dr. Honkala.
Although Mira, it took a lifetime to get to where I am today because it was
Yeah.
hard. I mean, it's like,
Yes.
yeah, but I think also I needed other things. You know, Mira, I see it now with eyes of clarity. And the fact that I became a scientist, the fact that I work with very serious organizations, the fact that I did scientific work that was very serious, very in depth, very important, was like all that opened the path, not just to later be more mature, more serious, more clear, but I went deep. I went, all these brought me to investigate everything in a very, very deep way. I wanted clarity. I wanted understanding. I wanted to explore everything. So it was like a lifetime of like building all these clarity, peeling layers until it could I could arrive the time in my life when I'm ready. Or I didn't even feel that I was ready. It just happened. Like the universe, you're ready now. I'm like, no, I'm not. Yes, you are. And it started to happen. Yeah. So it took about, let me think, Mira, it took about almost 40 years to have what I call a big awakening and then come out to come out of the spiritual closet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, like you were saying, Dr. Hunker, like just articulating what happened to you because you were so young had to be incredibly different, as well as then downloading what happened. So it was so much that you had to do while also knowing that when you look back that your mom was there, your grandma was there, and other people that were put in your path. But it does not take away from how difficult and challenging this had to be for a child having this beautiful experience, but still so difficult to process.
Mira, it was so hard that at the age of 19, when I was already in college, but it's when I made the decision. First, when I joined college, I was like, I want to be like everybody else. And once in college, yeah, I mean, I met people. I was still in the connection with all the spiritual world until I made the decision one day. I told the being so light because I received the clarity. If this was the moment to kind of make that decision if I wanted to be a teacher continue in the spiritual path as a teacher, or if I wanted to continue with my scientific career. And it's when I said, I'm done. I want to be like everybody else. I said, I want to be normal. That's how the pressure of my outer was. And it was for so many years that I said, I cannot teach anything. Just help me be like everybody else. See, look at the peer pressure. It was the pressure of like, I need to belong. And that was actually that the being so light said to me later in my life. They say, you didn't look to be normal. You wanted to belong. So and that people ask me, how could you leave the being so light? Because there was a time in my life where it's like almost say that I closed that door, but it's not like that. I said to people, imagine, I said to them, how could you leave your parents and go on your own? It's the same thing. There's a moment in your life where you need to put your feed your ground and grow and evolve and mature and experience your individuality, your humanity. So I was like, can I just go? And yes, of course, but same thing as leaving home. It's not like the being so light went away. Everything is here and now. Like the parents, the being so light were just one call away. So I knew any time I could call, but you know how we are when we leave home. My parents don't call me. You don't answer the phone. And you see, you start living your life. And that's what I did. But in this time, Mira, many, many challenges happen. Why I say it this way is like the sufferings we all have. But all these challenges happen, especially because the first 19 years of my life, I'm going to give you an analogy. Imagine you're in a room with the lights on. What happened with the lights on in a room and if the room is full of furniture? You don't trip. You see, you know what you're doing. But what happened when the room is full of furniture and you turn off the light? You're going to trip with every piece of furniture. That's what happened. Now I was on, okay, you want to go on your own, go. And I was all these sufferings, all these hardships, all these challenges. But at the end of the day, that was so important because it's the contrast that I needed to not be arrogant and starting from there. So it was a moment where I was like, what is happening to these people? Later, I was like, oh, I know what is happening. Wow, it's so easy to forget. It's so easy to trip. It's so easy to get lost. It's so easy to lose your focus. It's so easy to fall. But it also taught me to get up, to be strong, to prove my resilience, my strength, my capacity to be compassionate, my empathy, my love, so it gave me all the other things. So sis, at the end of the day, we need all that path, all that experience to reach the place where we are at. Yeah, it was all important, all worth it. I wouldn't change anything. Not even the most difficult days of my life. Yeah.
It's nice looking back as an adult now to say you wouldn't change it for the world, even the most difficult parts. And I'm glad that you feel that way because for a child, as a mom, I can't imagine having to walk that journey with my with a 2-year old and then having to see that child grow as well, because not only would that be difficult for the child, but like you said, for your parent, for your family, and just to see my child go through this, it had to have been difficult.
It was difficult for my mom, but also at the same time, look at how everything was playing. Like this is so intricate, Mira, because there was so many pieces of the puzzle. Like Colombia was a country at war. So my parents, it was a time of survival for everybody. So it was like they could not really also set all their attention on what was happening to me. There was a lot happening to them too. So see how it was like, okay, this child is going through her stuff, but the world out there is also really going hard. So it just, it was a play of many, many different things. My mom went through really hard times too, a lot of depression, a lot of sickness. So in a way, it was my dad traveled a lot, so we were left very lonely growing with my sisters too. So it was, yeah, there was a lot of loneliness. It was very hard, but at the same time, yeah, my mom was going through other really hard times in her life too. So it is it is what it is. But again, it just made me grow up with so much strength at the end of the day, and so much resilience. But I have to tell you that I suffer from deep depression, deep, deep depression. And I never wanted to be here. I wanted to be home. And this is where probably there's so many things I could share with you, Mira, about one of the things that opened for me the path of clarity. Was my the big awakening I had when I was 40 years old. I was very successful at this time with my career. I became a really good scientist. I was working for NASA. I was doing incredible projects. I was living in the United States, became a PhD, had my son. So we could say, as a woman, as a professional I was very successful woman. But the more I accomplished in the outer, and the more I walk away from my inner, the more sad and the more melancholic and the more depressed I became. I always had this yearning to go home. And it felt like the more I focused in the outer, the farthest I was from home. And then by the age of 39, I fell into the deepest depression. And it was almost hard to get up from bed. And I will go there and I will be smiling and I will be this person in the outer, and in the inner, I was destroyed. I was just so depressed. And I reached the point where one day I was lying next to my son. He was just a little baby. He was 2, 3 years old. And then I felt that I was done. I thought about committing suicide. And then but I just had this thought, like, who can take care of my son? Who can, you as a mom, like, nobody can take care of him as I do. And then I had the tiny little thought, what if we just go together? When that thought touched my head, I'm like, I lost my mind. What I am thinking, this is crazy. No, I cannot think this way. Like, what? And it's when, for the first time in a long time, I went back to prayer. And I went back to this deep prayer and I said, God, but my prayer, Mira, my prayer wasn't, God, fix this, fix that, correct it. My prayer was, God, help me see, because I cannot see. I have become blinded. Please help me see. My idea was not change this, change my reality. No, let me see what is going on. So I woke up next day in the morning, and the first feeling I had was the feeling of, you need help. Go look for help. And then I I felt the sense to look in the computer for the name of a psychologist in my area. That was the guidance. And then I wrote a name on a paper. And that very day, an incredible synchronicity happened. Two more people named the exact same doctor I have written in this paper. I'm like, whoa, they're at work. And then I went to see the guy, and he happened to be very spiritual. And then he asked me to write a list of sufferings. And is when I said, uh, I don't write about sufferings, I am a scientist. And then But he says, this is cathartic, blah, blah. So I started to write all the list. And then is when I showed the list to him, he said, in my 37 years of practice, I've never seen someone that has suffered this much and is mentally stable. He said, whoa, then I never thought I was the one that suffered the most or nothing like that. So at that moment, I was shocked and I was crying. And I said the words that actually, and he answered with the words that opened back the door, turned the light on. I said, why me? And the answer was, why not? And then at that moment, he started to say, look, thanks to this, you have done this, and thanks to this, you have done that, and thanks to, and thanks to. And then I started to see purpose behind everything. And it's when I said, everything makes sense. And then at that moment, that's when I said to you, Mira, I started to see purpose and started to feel gratitude for everything that ever happened, because everything had brought me to that place of conscious, clear awareness I had at that moment. And then I saw everything with the eyes of purpose. I was like, and I can say that 3 miracles happened that day. The first miracle was the realization that never, ever nothing happened to me. It happened for me. The next miracle was the realization that nothing, absolutely nothing was happening. My only truth was I was in front of this doctor and the rest was in my head. And I could do anything I wanted with the narrative in my head. So I felt empowered. I'm the owner of this narrative. And the third miracle was discovering true forgiveness, was realizing if everything happened for me and not to me, then what is to forgive? If everything carries purpose. So at that moment, I could say two things: there was nothing to forgive, or everything was forgiven.
That is so beautiful.
Yeah. So, Mira, that's the moment where this path of clarity and understanding really, really began. Yeah.
I really love those three miracles that you shared with us because, it really helps you to put things in perspective that we are getting supported by beings on the other side. It's just that some of us cannot see them. So thank you for that reminder.
Yes, and we are supported like in so many different ways. Some people think that it has to be that you see a light or a orb, or I mean, like, no, look at this doctor. Look at it could be a book, it could be a friend, it could be a video, it could be
Exactly.
your video, Mira, it could be anything. I mean, like, it's happening all the time. We just have to have the ears to hear it, the eyes to see it, the attitude to receive it. So it's
Yeah,
all
I
there for us always.
Yeah, I love that. I do see that you're doing work on consciousness and you're speaking internationally as well. And that was one of the things that the beings of light had told you that you would be doing, right? And
Yeah.
so I so is it true to say that you did leave working for the big organizations like NASA and the military to focus on this life, to focus on your spirituality?
Yes, completely.
Yeah.
Completely, Mira. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because there was a moment in which I was done with what I was doing. And that's just that process and that part of detachment. But that happened. I cannot tell you I wasn't afraid at the beginning, but suddenly the fear was gone too. And when the fear was gone, I was able to make the change. So when do you know that you're ready? When the fear is gone. After that, just honor what is there, honor what is present. But yeah, there was the moment in which I knew this is the direction I had to take. And then I switched gears and my book happened, my first book, and then a book I never thought about writing either. And then I was completely guided to do it. And then I was a little bit resistant at the beginning until I received the clarity. This is nothing to do with you. So I thought writing about me was kind of egotistic, and it said, does it nothing to do with you and everything to do with what you can do for others. And it's when I let go and the book, I would just say, it wrote itself. I just was there writing and it just happened. So, and after that, the rest is history. I've been just sharing and just doing whatever I can to help others to remember.
So I have three questions for you. What brings you joy and laughter these days?
Oh, service. Service is my joy, Mira. When I am talking, when I'm helping others to remember, and when I'm with you and you ask me, we're helping each other. I can never say I'm doing. Is like is the connection. The connection is like every moment we're going deeper into remembrance, being deeper into connection, deeper into love, deeper into remembrance. So it's like this is my passion. My passion is to be connected with God. My passion, some call it source, some call it ultimate reality, some call it, I don't know, divinity, but I wake up every morning and I said, God, don't let me forget you. And the way I don't do it is through service. That brings me to that joy of remembrance. Because I'm always holding hands with God. So it's like I wake up with that passion, and that's what I want to do. Just share.
That's beautiful. What would you tell little Ingrid who's about to embark on this beautiful experience?
Little Ingrid is never alone. We're never alone. You know, Mira, I have become, this is the part of integrating my experience to the part of going back within and working with the inner child and working with all the traumas that I also had from all these very, for the psyche, for my emotional and my physical body, there was a lot of trauma that I experienced. So is open, always opening to receive help from others, to allow the love, to allow the all the tools I can receive to heal, to practice gratitude, practice calming the mind, being connection, is always being in that space of being grateful for all this stuff and all the progress. And I said, a little Ingrid, you're never alone. I
I
have
love
become,
that.
I have become the mother, the sister, the teacher, the brother, the everything for the little, the aspect of Ingrid. So how can we be alone? And after that, now we know we're connected with this whole universe of beings of light and to God. So there's no way to be alone.
Yeah, I love that. And what final message or blessing do you have for those listening today?
As a message, I want to say something the beings of light shared with me, Mira. They said, you don't imagine how grateful everybody would be if you remember that for you to exist, trillions and trillions and trillions of subatomic particles have to be in agreement. You are a divine intention.
That is so beautiful. That is so beautiful. Wow. I've never heard it put that way before. So that is very leaves me speechless.
Oh, thank you for having me here. And I feel so great. And that even that bring me to Mira. I always say, I even look at this pen, I even look at this water and said, trillions of particles agree to be this water so I can drink it. trillions and trillions already spent so I can use it. Imagine being in that awareness, in that presence, in that
Yeah.
gratitude. Then your
It's
vibrational
yeah.
frequency is high. It's the one of love.
I was now going to say that changes your mindset so quickly, and you have no choice but to vibrate at the highest frequencies that are available. Thank you so much, Dr. Honkala. I hope everyone enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed listening to you. And when this is and thank you for all the work that you're doing for humanity to remind us and to to remind us of our essence and that we're not alone.
Thank you so much, Mira, for having me.